The night had a certain weight to it, one of those evenings when the air itself seemed to hum with anticipation. Outside the Grand Hotel on the Bosphorus, luxury cars pulled up one after another, their headlights sweeping over the crimson carpet like spotlights before a grand performance. Inside, the ballroom was a world away from the cool night air. Chandeliers bathed the room in golden light, the clink of champagne glasses mingled with soft orchestral music, and everywhere you looked, there were faces lit with polite smiles and carefully chosen words. Demet Özdemir had been to countless events like this before. She knew the rhythm of these nights, the polite greetings, the flashbulbs, the endless chatter about projects and premieres. But this one felt different. This time, her heart was not here for the awards, the applause, or the headlines. It was waiting for something, or rather, someone. She had known for weeks that he would be here. Can Yaman. The name alone still sent a flicker of electricity through her chest, no matter how much she told herself she was over it. They had not shared a set, a conversation, or even a glance in months. The last time they had stood in the same space, the air between them had been thick with words left unsaid. And now, fate, or perhaps the relentless circle of their industry, was placing them under the same roof once more. Her stylist had asked her that morning if she wanted something bold or something understated. Demet had chosen something in between, a silk gown that whispered elegance but carried enough presence to command attention. The fabric clung in the right places, flowing down in a way that made each step look deliberate, almost regal. She wore her hair in soft waves, the kind that framed her face without hiding it. Her makeup was flawless, but it wasn't what people would notice first. It was her eyes, deep, dark, holding a storm she refused to let show. As she stepped into the ballroom, she felt it, that subtle shift, that quiet tightening in her chest. She wasn't looking for him, she told herself. She wasn't scanning the room for his familiar frame, his broad shoulders, his unruly hair that somehow looked effortlessly perfect. But her heart betrayed her. It always did. And then she saw him. From across the room, near the far corner where a small crowd of actors and producers had gathered, there he was. Taller than most around him, his presence seemed to draw people in without him even trying. He was laughing at something, the kind of deep, warm laugh that used to make her chest ache in the best way. His suit was sharp, perfectly tailored, but he wore it with the ease of someone who didn't care about the clothes as much as the person wearing them. For a moment, she just watched. She watched the way he leaned in when he listened, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. And in that instant, a flood of memories came rushing back. The long hours on set, the private jokes no one else understood, the way he would always greet her with a hug no matter how busy or tired he was. Tonight, she hoped for that hug again. Just one. Demet tried to remind herself to breathe, to stay in the rhythm of the evening, but it was impossible to ignore the quiet pull that drew her eyes back to him again and again. Every few minutes, she would catch a glimpse of his profile, the sharp line of his jaw, the easy charm in his smile, and it was like being reminded of a song she used to know by heart. They hadn't spoken in so long, yet she could still recall the exact sound of his voice when he greeted her. There had been warmth in it, always. Even on days when the cameras caught them in tense moments, when rumors painted them as distant or at odds, the truth was far more complicated. Their story wasn't one of simple affection or bitter fallout. It was something in between, a mix of passion, misunderstanding, pride, and unspoken care. The evening unfolded around her. She spoke to colleagues, posed for photographers, laughed at jokes that didn't quite land. All the while, a quiet awareness burned at the edge of her thoughts: he's here. And sooner or later, we'll be face to face. She thought about the last time they had been close, really close. Not just standing in the same room, but close enough to hear each other's breathing, to feel the subtle shift in the air when one moved. It was months ago, after a long day on set. They had been shooting a scene that required them to look into each other's eyes for far longer than the script demanded. When the director called cut, neither moved immediately. There was a weight there, something unspoken pressing between them. And then, nothing. No confession. No explanation. Just a shared glance that said both too much and not enough. Her manager's voice pulled her back to the present. Demet, they want you for a quick interview by the stage. She nodded, her professional mask sliding back into place. As she moved through the crowd, she couldn't help but notice the small ripple that followed his movements. Wherever Can went, people adjusted, subtly shifting their stance, leaning in just enough to be within his orbit. That magnetism had been part of his allure from the very start, and Demet had once been caught in it too, willingly. The interview was brief, questions about upcoming projects, her thoughts on the industry, a polite laugh here, a thoughtful nod there. But her mind wasn't in it. Her mind was on the fact that he was now only a few steps away, talking to a director they had both worked with years ago. When the camera stopped rolling, she turned, and there he was. Closer now. For the first time that night, their eyes met. It wasn't a long look, just a few seconds, but it was enough to bring everything rushing back. She saw recognition in his gaze, perhaps even a flicker of surprise. And in that moment, she felt it again, the instinct to close the distance, to reach out, to find the familiar comfort of his arms. But instead, she stayed still. She didn't want to rush. Not this time. She told herself, if we cross paths naturally tonight, I'll take it as a sign. And deep down, she believed they would. The night wore on, and the ballroom began to lose its initial frenzy. The award winners had been announced, speeches had been made, and the constant flash of cameras had slowed to a gentle flicker. Waiters moved quietly between the remaining guests, collecting empty glasses and replacing them with fresh champagne for those who lingered. Demet had drifted toward the quieter end of the room, away from the spotlight. She'd smiled enough for one evening, given all the right answers to reporters, and now she wanted a moment just for herself. But in truth, she wasn't just escaping the crowd, she was watching. Waiting. Across the room, she could still see him. Can was deep in conversation with a small group near the bar, his hand gestures animated, his expression warm. Every now and then, he would laugh, that same laugh that used to feel like home to her. And each time he did, it was like someone tugged gently at a thread inside her chest. Eventually, the music softened, and people began to filter out toward the lobby. Demet knew this was it, the moment when they would either meet or leave without a word. She made her way toward the exit, her pace unhurried, her eyes scanning the thinning crowd. The hotel's lobby was a picture of elegance, high ceilings, marble floors that reflected the warm light from ornate chandeliers, and a faint scent of jasmine from the fresh arrangements placed by the entrance. Demet stepped aside near one of the marble columns, pretending to check her phone but really stealing glances toward the doorway. And then she saw him. He was walking in her direction, tall and steady, his gaze sweeping the room as if taking in the final details of the evening. For a second, she could almost pretend this was like old times, the way he'd approach her after a long day, the way his arms would open automatically, the way the world around them would disappear in that simple, grounding embrace. Her heart started to race. She took a slow breath, letting her shoulders relax, allowing a small, tentative smile to appear. It wasn't forced, it was the kind of smile born from recognition, from hope, from the quiet belief that maybe, just maybe, some things never change. Her arms shifted slightly forward, just enough for him to see, the silent invitation clear. She didn't need to say a word. The history between them spoke for itself. For the briefest moment, his eyes locked on hers. There was no anger there, no visible coldness, just something unreadable. And then, he kept walking. Past her. No pause, no touch, no trace of the warmth she'd been waiting for. The faint scent of his cologne lingered as he passed, but the space between them only grew wider. Demet didn't move. She stood there, arms now resting at her sides, the smile fading slowly from her lips. Around her, the lobby continued its gentle rhythm, guests chatting softly, doors opening and closing, but inside, everything had gone still. It wasn't the absence of the hug that hurt the most. It was what it meant. The moment passed, but it clung to her like a shadow. She didn't chase after him, didn't call out his name, didn't try to force what clearly wasn't there anymore. Her feet remained rooted to the polished marble floor, though every part of her wanted to step forward, to bridge that impossible gap. The car ride home was quiet. The city lights flickered past her window, each reflection in the glass catching her eyes, reminding her of the brief look they had shared in the lobby. That look. Short, unreadable, heavy with something she couldn't quite name, replayed in her mind over and over. She had prepared herself for so many possibilities, a cold nod, an awkward smile, maybe even a polite conversation. But she had never prepared herself for nothing. At a red light, she glanced down at her hands in her lap. They were still, but she could feel the phantom memory of how it used to be, the warmth of his palm against hers, the way his hugs would wrap her in a quiet safety. Back then, they didn't need words. Back then, silence meant comfort. Tonight, silence felt like a door closing. When she finally stepped into her apartment, the familiar scent of home did little to soften the ache. She slipped off her heels, walked straight to the couch, and sat there in the dark. The city's hum filtered in through the window, but inside, everything felt muted. She thought of the first time he had ever hugged her, really hugged her. It wasn't on set or during some scripted moment. It had been years ago, after a long, grueling day of shooting when she had been exhausted and on the verge of tears. He hadn't said a word, just pulled her close until her breathing steadied. That hug had told her she wasn't alone. Tonight, the absence of that same gesture told her something else entirely. It wasn't anger she felt toward him. It wasn't even resentment. It was the deep, aching sadness of realizing that a chapter had ended without anyone saying it out loud. Sometimes, she thought, things don't shatter with noise, they dissolve quietly, until one day you turn around and see they're gone. The world outside would never know what happened in that lobby. To them, it would just be another night in the endless carousel of celebrity events. But to her, it was the night she waited for his hug, and he walked away. In the days that followed, Demet did what she always did, smiled for the cameras, showed up to work, posted carefully curated snapshots of her life. But behind the public mask, there was a stillness in her she couldn't quite shake. Friends noticed she was quieter. Some thought she was just tired. No one guessed she was carrying the weight of a goodbye that had never been spoken. And perhaps, somewhere out there, he thought about her too. Maybe he replayed that moment, wondering if he should have stopped. Wondering if he should have given her that hug. Or maybe he didn't. Either way, Demet knew one thing: some memories stay with you not because they're perfect, but because they mark the exact moment you realized something had changed forever. And this silent pain, would be one of those memories. Because sometimes, the loudest heartbreaks don't come from words shouted in anger. They come from the sound of footsteps, walking away.